Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Communications from Home, which is my weekly evening live stream show here at Facebook Star Nation's organization's main fan page. And welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you could join me on this alternate night. And usually I'm on Tuesday nights, but as you know, most of you know that we had some severe weather here last night, which meant that I didn't have any electricity and no internet. And wouldn't you know, I didn't charge my phone. So we moved the Tuesday night show to Wednesday night. And so thank you for being here with me. I really do appreciate it. Following us over to a different night. That's always kind of a hard thing once we get into a rut, right? So thank you so much. Tonight is Wednesday, June 3rd, and tonight's show on Communications from Home is all about eldership. We're talking about the reluctant elder tonight. And actually, talking a bit about what is an elder and why are people reluctant to embrace that? And so we're going to be talking about that tonight. Hopefully we'll have a very good conversation about it. But in the meantime, one of the things I need to ask you to do for me, if you wouldn't mind, if you are an elder and you'd like to send this live stream over to a friend who is another elder or soon to be elder, why don't you go ahead and do that? I just sent it over to my news feed, our live stream here, so that my friends, all those people that I graduated with from high school, yeah, you know who you are. We're elders, sorry to say, or happy to say, one of the two. And so they can join us and join into the conversation. So how I even got to this topic is a few months ago, I was looking for another book to read. And not so much to read, but to listen to, because as you know, Star Nations, we're very busy all the time. And so to be able to fit a book in to read, sometimes it gets kind of difficult, right? And so I thought, well, I could always listen to a book. And so I was looking for a series that I could listen to on Audible. And I never read any of her books before. I knew about her, but I never read her books. And that is, what is her name? Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And so I started listening to her books. And she has a series, right, about elders. And I thought that is a really good reason to get together to talk, to have a chat about. And so yeah, the reluctant elder. That's how we're going to get started. We are going to be adding more on to this series. We're going to be talking about the rookie elder. We're going to be talking about the unrecognized elder. And so we're going to have at least maybe 4 shows about elders. So tonight we're just kind of kicking it off, and I have to be very grateful, and I so appreciate her. And that is Ortrun Franklin. She is one of our elders here at Star Nations. And we were talking the other day. We were working on her book. And toward the end of the conversation, I asked her if she would be available to come on the show with me to have this conversation and talk about eldership. And so thank goodness she said yes. And so here she is, welcoming Ortrun Franklin to the show. There she is.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, welcome, Ortrun. It's good to have you here.
Oh, it's good to be with you. Thank you for having
me. Well, we tried last night, but it was a little difficult without electricity. And yeah. I was just looking at my phone just to see who's all with us, because making sure that the comments come through. I see Violet's here. Hi, Violet. Good to have you here.
Hi, Violet.
Yeah, you know what I forgot to do? It's going to take me just a second. I forgot to send the live stream over to some of the friends that are on my list of people that I promised that I would let them know when I'm live streaming. And I completely forgot to do that. So I'm going to do it very quickly right now. And
you'll put that in mine also, Neshi?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Put it out there right now. Ortrun, done. And I also have to send, see, it came in. And Carol Anderson. There we go. And I think I might need to also send it to Barbara. What's Angelica? That's it. And oops. There we go. All right, done. We got it. Thanks for waiting for me. I appreciate that. I was going to do that before we got started, and I completely forgot. It's like one of those days, right? I know. It was just a very, very busy day. And
very busy.
Yeah. And I have to say that when this topic came around, and the reason why I even started with this particular title is because I was one of those, and I kind of still am, one of those reluctant elders. Because, and I'll tell you why, is because in my culture, in the Native American culture, much of it's attached to your chronological age. And so there's so many more people older than me that I consider are elders. But because I just turned 60 in December, and I don't feel that's eldership. You know, it's like I have life experience, but I don't have the kind of life of experiences as somebody that are in their 70s or 80s or 90s, or even for my mom, who is going to be 101 next week, you know. And so, yeah, so it's that chronological thing that's kind of like, even when I went gray, when I allowed my natural color to come through and the gray came through, Ortrun, I couldn't even still claim that. Do you have a story for that one? Because I don't know. I call you and Carl and Constance, Star Nation's elders, and I just love sitting and listening. And there's always something that comes up that I think, oh my God, that is so good. You know, those nuggets that you guys give us every month. But I've never even asked you how you feel about being called an elder for Star Nations.
Well, I think you were the first one that really addressed me as an elder. And I thought, that's interesting, because I don't really think of myself as an elder. At least I hadn't up until that point, or even considered it. But these are stages you go into. So have you been reluctant before? Yes. When I was to become, or was first joining Coptic Fellowship, Carl and John were speaking, and John said, sure, I'll ordain you to Carl, because he decided he was having some weddings coming up, so it was a good idea. And I said, well, let's go, don't you think we should at least meditate about this? And so we did. We all meditated about it. But the next morning, John called me, and he said, I need to talk to Ortrun. And he says, Hamad Bey came to me, and Hamad Bey, he is the one that brought Coptic Fellowship to the United States. He was an Egyptian mystery school, a master. And he came to me in my dreams, because he now had made his transition to become. So, and he said, you are to ordain Ortrun along with Carl. And John, you know, I know he never thought about me as being any kind of a minister, I guess. So he says, okay, I'll tell her. And he was just reluctant and even making a phone call. And then Hamad, actually, he was trying to go back into his meditation, and Hamad said, you call her now. And so literally, John Davis said that he was kicked out of his meditation, so to call me to tell me that this was supposed to be. Well, being of a Catholic background, it's like, what? Me be a priest? I couldn't even imagine it. You know, and this is 43 years ago, and I couldn't even imagine me being in that kind of a position,
right,
in any way, shape, or form. But then the more that I thought about and realized is that I really had put out a desire that I wanted to do counseling, and I put that out to the universe. And I realized this is how they're giving me a chance to be that counselor without having to go back to school and get this
Yeah.
degree because I could be a
Mhm.
minister and do spiritual counseling.
Mhm.
So that was really my first time, as far as feeling, oh my gosh, I can't take on this role.
Yeah.
This is crazy. But then, now time passes by, and then you said something about the elders.
Mhm.
It still doesn't really kick in.
Yeah.
But then when I started realizing, okay, all of a sudden now I'm looking around and I'm the matriarch of our family now too. So that was also an indicator. Well, I guess you're right up there. Where how much further can you go without actually transitioning? So,
Right.
so just the two of them together sort of helped me to recognize that I really am now the head of the household. I am now, um, the large family, and also that I have done a tremendous amount of studying over the years in
Mhm.
spiritual metaphysical fields, so that I do have some knowledge to pass on.
Yeah.
So that helped me to feel more comfortable with that particular title.
Right. Well, I'm glad you shared that because here's the thing is that when I sat back and was really kind of considering what does even that title mean? What does that entail? And why am I so reluctant to embrace it? And that's when I came to, oh, that's because it's the age thing. But then again, it goes a lot deeper too, because if we just kind of slow down and consider how we live our lives in the Western culture, right, is that our families, many times, we live far distances from each other. Sometimes, way across the country or in a different state, or maybe you're in the same state, but maybe 4 or 5 hours away, right? And we don't embrace older people here in the United States, especially. Um, just as a society, just as a kind of a belief system, right? Everybody wants to be young and they want to stay young, right? And so I was thinking about this is that we do actually have a few generations, at least two generations that haven't had an elder, a grandparent, and a great aunt, somebody that is in their family that they're close enough to that they can say, how do you make such and such grandma's recipe for whatever, or even more important life um, information, you know, um, that we might turn to a grandparent or a great aunt for, even just the family history kind of stuff. And so that's why I was thinking maybe this is a good series to have, is because I really, in my heart, I really believe that we need to um, ignite ignite the elders, and get comfortable in being that. Because I think that, especially in today's world, when we look around us and the kind of chaos that's going on out there, is that who can a younger generation turn to and say, how do I ground? What's grounding? How do I'm feeling all these feelings, but they don't feel like they're mine. And those kinds of questions, even. And from a Native American point of view, that's also a loss of culture. That's a loss of language. It's we're almost like a elder renaissance. Yeah.
Well, I think that it is really important, to bring that aspect into the family. And truly, as you mentioned, in America, the United States, really that's not part of it. And, you know, I came from Europe and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone except my mother and father because we had to flee when I was 2 months old. So
Mhm.
from what I heard, we had this great family and there were the grandparents and so on. They were all very, very important. It was an important structure.
Mhm.
We came to the United States. It was my mother, my father, and my the two brothers, was 2 years older than me and me. my oldest brother was already off on his own. He had to take care of himself. He fled on his own.
Mm.
So here I am in the United States, and I truly missed not having a family, because we had this small group. That's all we had was that. And I always felt a little bit, like, I wish I'd had that, it's something I was really missing. And I had lonesomeness. And I think a lot of that lonesomeness comes from not having somewhat of an expanded family, having cousins and that kind of thing, because most people have someone they feel like they belong with or to.
So they look like them.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So for me, when I became a grandmother, and that was an extremely important thing for me. You talk about here in the United States, everyone wants to be younger, and there's many grandmas that don't want to be called grandma. They don't just call me, Joy or whatever you want to be called. So there are many of them that don't even want to have that. But for me, it was very important. So for me, it was important to be as good of a grandparent as I could be. And I think that also helped me start to relate to that. I am a little bit older, and I have not just my children now, but I have the grandchildren. And I want to have them be a part of me, and I want to be a part of them. And I was fortunate enough that I had the grandchildren around as much as possible. I mean, we had them. We actually moved back to Michigan because we had 11 of them around Michigan. So there's some way I was going to have these children around.
Right.
Then there are a few of them that really hone in. So there are a few of them that really, really latch on to the grandma thing, and but also, and that falls onto my daughter's family. But how women tend to be more. They're taking on that next role also, just like we have taken on that role. Right. So that has been a tremendous gift, for me. And that's really, I say to that granddaughter, I said, you know more about me than anyone in the family, because I spent more time with her. Because she was interested. She was interested in finding out the family history. She was interested in learning how to cook and various old world meals and so on. So we spent all this time together. Plus, I was blessed with her because she started editing many of my things and typing up many of the things that shows I did and so on.
Sure. Yay. I like her.
So she really, you talk about getting to know me. I mean, she got to know that internal me also, as far as where I was coming from. I remember her saying she used to have a conflict because her mother is not as much as I'm into spirituality, and so she thought she always had to make a decision. And there was a point in her life where she realized she didn't have to make a decision. She could implement whatever she wanted to in her life, which was really, a good insight. So, but more and more, I think, as my children are getting older, they're recognizing the importance of this person that you might call an elder. That as I said, the matriarch of the family. I sort of laugh at it because most of the time it's like, oh, that's mom, that kind of thing. Your own children. But more and more they're realizing, and it's like they know everything. My children, it's like they know everything about me. And then every once in a while, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay, well,
like you're keeping
something there. So it's really the grandchildren that have you feel more that you are, wiser, or more than my own children do. So I think that's pretty natural, don't you?
Sometimes I do. I think here's what I feel. Okay, is that because I was looking for the reason why I wasn't embracing this, right? And for me, it did boil down to the chronological age, and that's a belief system that comes from the culture I grew up in. But I think that we have to be able to sit down and frame or describe what an elder is in our own words, in our own way, our own image, rather than maybe a belief system that we grew up with, because it goes beyond chronological. Because to me, I think that it's anybody who has a wisdom to be able to share it to help someone else, right?
Exactly.
And so it's not necessarily tied to your chronological age. We all know that one child or two children that all of a sudden out of their mouths comes something that you go, oh my God, that is so deep. Or, that's true, and they could be decades younger than you, and yet they have this piece of knowledge. Clarissa, Dr. Pincola Estes, what she calls that in her language, because she speaks Spanish, and the loque sabe. The loque sabe is a person of wisdom, and the noque sabe is the person who has little wisdom. In other words, little life experience. Not necessarily they're not smart or anything like that. It's just that they don't have a lot of life experience. So that little life experience, they can look to the loque sabe, which is somebody who has more life experience, something to share, right? And so I think that's you kind of gave that to us in a nice package, Ortrun, when you were explaining your relationship to your granddaughter or to your grandchildren compared to your children. Is that they actually, your grandchildren, look to you to say, tell me a story, right? Yeah. Where, how many times has my mom told me a story when I was a kid, and it's like, yeah, right, and you're running by, I've got things to do. And then you go through your young adult life and you do the same thing. Yep, I'm busy, I'll be back. Well, now that she's literally in the same house as me and I'm hearing the same stories again, it's like, I pull up a chair and I think, really? I don't remember that happening. And what about that? And so to be able to ask a few more questions and really sit down and listen.
Yes.
Around, right?
Right. And that's where it changes. And it's really a very, it's a wonderful feeling, when that does happen with your, your own children, when they're actually starting to recognize, that you did have we've all had lots of experiences. So, but the other thing that I think that defines, not necessarily so much defines, but the way it has always been is, that especially in the other cultures, not so much in America, because as you said, we don't really recognize the elder as much.
Embraced, no.
And where in the other traditions, like of course I have friends from all over the world. My sister, my daughter-in-law, she's from Philippines, and I'm German, and we embraced families from Zimbabwe. So we've got a whole bunch of our little grandchildren and grandma and great grandma, and that family. But all those different cultures, we have a niece, she's from Japan, and so on. So they all embrace that family structure more deeply than the Americans have. I think it's coming back, in the United States and so on, but they embrace it more, and they will take care of those different generations, or they have many generations living within their household, and they will they take on their roles. And so I think it's easier to distinguish to okay, this is the elder, this is the matriarch, this is the matriarch. And then in the type of a setup we have here in the United States, and people are in some ways are reluctant to take on any of the roles or even the responsibility of taking care of the older people. But for me growing up, even I was the one, of course, and you were too, were put into these roles, and you accept them, as much, right away, you embrace them, is that you're going to be helping out with the elderly in the family, right? So I remember it seeming so strange to me because, my mother had transitioned, and then my aunt, who I really thought of as a second mother, which oftentimes aunties, they do seem like second mothers, right?
Right.
So it got to the point where she was having memory issues and so on, and so we had to place her. We brought her actually from another town up to where we were living, and there was it was a really lovely place. It was really sort of an assisted living. Yeah, it was. I would say that. And we would go every week. We'd have every one day at least, if not two, to go up there, and see her and so on. I remember the elderly lady sitting around and talking about that. I said, can you believe that she's their aunt and they come and see her every week?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought, wow, that's really something, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that there were so many people in these homes that didn't have anyone of their family coming and seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
They're there and they're just left. Oh, they're in good hands. They can be there.
Yeah.
And how important, that role is for us to play for these elderly people.
Yeah.
But then also, if we are in that situation, how wonderful it is if somebody plays that role for us, or steps into that role for us. So I think the whole, and then I know what you say about the age too, because you think, oh, I don't know, because again, when you approached me about this elder thing, I was like, oh, okay. And then you said that in your, the way that you're brought up, that at this age you're an elder. I thought, well, that's a very interesting way to decide who is an elder and who's not, right?
Right.
Because someone that age may not have that much wisdom.
No, I know. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's this in the tribal culture, because we have so many rules that has to be abided by through the federal government. There's certain definitions that have to be put in place, right? And so in order to define elders and what they are able to get from the tribal government, they had an age on it. And so they in my nation, they put 55 and older. So, which was kind of odd to me. But, outside of that, traditionally, elders were considered somebody that had something to share.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily chronological necessarily, but many times they were maybe the oldest female in their family, and that made them the elder.
Right?
Yes. And so, yeah, so it's kind of a little bit of a dichotomy. It's like, you're young, but you're an elder. You're old, but you're an elder, and it's like. So I think that we lose some in translation. We really do. Ortrun, we have lots of people in the chat with us, and they're very chatty. So I want to turn our attention to what they're saying. And so, Rob, could you give us the first maybe 5 or 6 comments? And we'll see who's here. So Violet's here. Hello, Violet. It's good to have you here. And Cindy's here too. Good. Thank you. Jackie's here. Hey, Jackie. And Bobby's here too.
Bobby.
Carol made it. Yay. Cindy's
Hi, Cindy.
But you both have you have so much wisdom. Well, thank you. Yeah. And Michael she says, hi, y'all, just joined.
Hi, Michael.
And Pat said, I made it. Yay.
All right. Good. So glad.
And Karen, hey, Karen, she says, oh, yeah, I think we fixed that. Thank you for letting us know, Karen, because otherwise I wouldn't know. The link was a little messed up. So, oh, good. And you put it in Ortrun's page too. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you so much. You're a sweetheart, Karen. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Yeah, and I told her thank you.
There you go.
Put that note in there. And then Michael is saying, my maternal grandmother, great-grandmother, and great-aunt were instrumental in shaping your lives. I wish to be that with my grandchildren. Right. I really do. Honestly, Michael, I really do believe that it's a decision that we have to make, an intention we have to make, because we're filling a gap. We're filling a 2-generational gap here. And I wouldn't be surprised if when you put your intention on it and you start actually doing this, that you're going to have more than just your grandchildren. You're probably going to have their friends, because they're going to be looking toward someone that they can actually ask those kinds of questions to, or even just to be a role model for. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that, Michael. And this is Rob, I think. Growing up means growing old and then dying, and dying to me don't sound like all that much fun. So that's got to be a lyric. He always does this, and I'm trying to make
John Cougar Mellencamp.
Thank you. Told you. Thank you. John Cougar Mellencamp. Do you remember when he was just John Cougar? Minnie says, great conversations, ladies. I consider you both elders with much wisdom to share. Aw.
Thank you. Thank you, Minnie.
Same to you, Minnie. Same to you. Michael says, my daughter does not value what I have to offer. She thinks I'm weird. The attitude seems to be shared by my granddaughters. It's sad. Daughter likes having me available to babysit, but does not feel like who I am is valued. Oh, Michael, you just defined one of our next shows about the unrecognized elder. Unrecognized elder, because I can attest to some of that too, Michael. And so we're going to cover that one, and I hope you can join us for that, because I think what you may have to share in that show will be very valuable as well. So thank you for sharing. Pat says, my maternal grandfather was Native American from Quebec, Canada. My grandmother was Caucasian, also from Canada. They moved to Michigan early in their marriage. My grandmother spoke in tongues, which I now know is a light language. She was always, let's see, she was always, I got to scroll up here, considered to be crazy weird. I get it. Okay. Yeah, what she was probably doing is she was probably, let's see, speaking in tongues. Yeah, it was, yeah, your grandfather probably understood her, I would imagine. So thank you for sharing that, because you're right, you know, that, like I said, we have a couple generations that have never experienced that. And good for your grandparents, because they were probably married during a time when marrying into one race and into another was not exactly an acceptable situation, nor was it crossing religions an acceptable marriage. So, yeah, good for them. Yeah, leading edge. So cool, Cindy says. All right. Yeah. All right. And Cindy says, I loved my paternal great aunts and uncle. They were such gentle beings. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. Thanks, Cindy. So there was a term that Clarissa Pinkola Estes used, and that was a term called elderly. No, how did she say it? Elderly them. It was like she was taking the word elderly and turning it into a verb. You're actually doing something, right? And some sort of action. And so what she was talking about was when there's somebody who comes into your life, whether it is a grandchild, somebody that is of your lineage, right? Or perhaps it is a younger friend, maybe a friend of a friend, that are younger than you, or are less life experience than you. And you can see that they need a little assistance, right? And you try to do this as kindly as you can. But what Clarissa was talking about was to literally to become an elder to them, somebody that they can actually come and ask a question to, or you know, maybe it is about being a role model for them. And so it's an actual action. And Ortrun, you were kind of already going in that direction with what you were sharing, is that your children might not be embracing that or spending time with that, but your grandchildren certainly were. Yeah. To hear that. Because I tell you what, when you have life experiences, you got stories, right? You got stories. And for them to be able to sit and listen. And I can remember doing that with my grandfather, my Michel.
Well, sometimes I think it's easier for them to listen to someone else other than their grandma, you know, their mom or their grandma. And one of the examples of that is just recently, because we're in this process of selling our condo,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're already in our apartment. And this young girl, who is actually one of a very good friend of my granddaughter's, she's staying at our condo right now. She and I did lots of things together. She helped me to sort through many things, because there's so much after living in a place for so long. And it's really interesting because she was so excited about hearing everything I talked about. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just getting to know your whole family." And because there are pictures to talk about, there are all kinds of things to talk about. But not just that. It came down to little things like, well, this sounds so crazy, but the shower curtain was totally scummed over, right? And I'm thinking, my shower curtain has never looked like this, And so I said, well, I told her what to do and how to watch for things and so on. And she says, she says, "I'm really glad you're telling me this." She says, "Because, my mother," she says, "she never really was that much into keeping a house up
Yeah.
as well as you are." And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just various things, just little things like that she's seen me do, that she said, "My mother, she would never have done this." Things like just to keep things nice, and so and to be conscientious of not just throwing the shower curtain away all the time, but keeping up with it. And it's not that hard to do. But little things like that, even. It's
Yeah.
interesting how thankful she's been to me because of serious things, and I mean things like that. And she says that now what she does is that, because she says they're called Ortrunisms. And so when we're together, and even if I'm making an arrangement of flowers or whatever, she's like, she tries to visualize it through my mind,
Yeah.
because I have, a good eye, or she thinks I have. And
Mm-hmm.
I hang pictures, things like that. It's just this wonder. She tries to think of how I think about that, but she wouldn't think about that if she didn't think it was worth it, right? But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, she's learning something. She's learning something, which is seems like such a minor thing, but that's something that she'll carry that through in her household now, because it's something she learned.
Exactly. And
Mhm,
that's what I was trying to get at, is that there's at least two generations
mhm,
that didn't have the opportunity to be able to learn those small things. It might not have been from their mom or their dad, but it could have been from a grandparent or a great aunt or something like that, that would have been able to say, there's an easier way to do that. Can I show you? Let me show you. Right. And little things. I mean, she's not even related to me. She's somebody who takes care of my mom, helps me with that, does the respite work. And what I found out in trying to find people to help with my mom is that people, they don't know the simple things, like even just to make a bed, how to make a bed with a flat sheet and a fitted sheet.
mhm.
And it's like, okay, we got to slow down here.
Yeah.
Let me show you what my mom showed me. This is how she showed me how to make a bed.
Mhm.
And it's little things like that. And people who don't know how to iron, even simple things, And so, it's things that we might not even consider important, right? And that's maybe where the elder gets devalued, is because the things that we're talking about we might call them life skills,
Mhm.
whereas, a younger generation might not even consider that a life skill.
Right.
But it's that being that person that has that experience that then leads to wisdom, And I have a question for our audience. Number one, the first question is that how do you define an elder? And you can share with us if you want to, but this is really more of a taking a look into your own life and how you describe an elder for yourself, because it doesn't have to go by any other dictionary or some other person's definition. What is your description of an elder? That's more meaningful than something that's written on a piece of paper, I think. And the other question is, do you have an elder in your life? Do you have an elder that is kind of, you know, one of those characters? There's someone that Clarissa Pinkola Estes always writes about. She introduced us to her great Aunt Edna. Her Aunt Edna, and Aunt Edna was quite a character. And as I was thinking about this, I thought, oh my goodness, I had an aunt like that. You know? And it's this aunt that she drank, she told stories, she was very blunt, she smoked cigarettes, she could drive a truck, she was a survivor, is what she was. And even though she might not have been the classic staid elder, the one who does everything right and is very spiritual or religious or whatever, to have that kind of great aunt in there that was the character is actually can help build character, right? Because she's a survivor, and listening to her stories was like, you're kidding. Here's one of them that my mom and her shared a flat in Milwaukee in the early 40s, maybe late 30s. His early 40s. Anyway, they had to protect each other, right? And my mom, there was a shared bathroom. And so my mom went down to the shared bathroom in this apartment, this complex, and they always checked on each other. And so my aunt went down to check on her, and she walked in on a situation with my mom who was being accosted by a man. And so my aunt literally grabbed him by the back of his shirt, pulled him away, and decked him.
Yeah, good.
And right out the door, kind of thing. And traumatizing for my mom. But when my aunt told the story, it was, she added all of those things about his clothes and what he looked like when her fist was heading toward his face and those kinds of things, and I was thinking, geez, I wonder if anybody else has an elder like that in their life that they say, oh, they're the ones that cause all the chaos sometimes, but they too also have something to teach us.
That's true. That's very true. I didn't have because, like as I said, I had very small family. But then my brother, he's 17 years older than I am, so he married, and my sister-in-law, she's absolutely wonderful. She's not in this world anymore either. But he had this sister that was just totally. She was just the character of characters. And again, like you said, it's just the things that she would do, and it was oh my gosh, and everybody's heads, their eyes would roll to the back of their heads because oh gosh, what Helen did again, and so on. So, and but you learn from that. But then the more you learn from her, she did seem like she was maybe she had some issues, but I think there's a spirituality to her that nobody recognized. I think that they thought she was just out there, and not recognized that she actually, yes, she was different, but because she was different, she was also doing different things. But she had much more depth to her in a spiritual way if you really took a close look. And found out actually later in life too, speaking to like my nephew, where he was able to see that coming through. So it's interesting how it can appear out here, but there's so much more inside of them that you'd never even recognize.
Yeah, and I think it's also the way they embrace life, in the manner that they embrace life. There's also a saying in Native America about being too religious, that if you wanted to be a saint, if you wanted to be a spirit, you didn't need to come into a physical form. If you wanted to be perfect, that life, the juicy parts of life are messy, and those parts of our life that really give us character.
Sometimes the most religious people they're ignoring their families, all kinds of things. because they think they're doing the right thing because they're doing everything for the church and so on. And where really and truly, you've got this family, whoever is around you, that's who you're there to really look after first and foremost. So, and I have to mention, I think that sometimes, well, elders, because we're talking about elders, but I'm thinking more female because you and I are female, but really, the ones that the elders that are actually male that take on much of the types of roles that we have taken on as elders, more the feminine perspective and qualities and teachings. Oftentimes they step in and actually teach that.
Yes.
And I've seen that, and that's really beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the other things I was going to mention tonight is that as an elder, there's a certain part of your life, and I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, Ortrun, but there's a certain part of your life, whether you're male or female, you get to a point where you're done having the mask on. You're done with the, it's like, I'm just going to say what I want to say. I'm going to say it as kindly as I can, but this is it, and I'm going to show my emotions. I'm going to do this. And with that comes an authenticity of yourself that you might not have done in your 40s or in your 30s. Because, and along those lines, you're just trying to fit in and trying to get along, and you're just doing the best you can, right?
Right.
But I think that whether you're male or female, you get to that point where you're going to be who you were meant to be. And with a man, it might mean that you're more nurturing than what you were to your children as they were growing up. You're going to be more nurturing to your grandchildren or to the great grandchildren. That you may be more comfortable in showing the kindness and the emotions that come with that as a male, and vice versa for women. We might become more assertive, and some people might call it something else. And it's like, so you just. I think we express ourselves much more authentically the older we get. And you said something not too long ago here in our conversation. Being an elder doesn't always mean that you're wise. That we don't know everything either.
Right.
There's some things we still go, oh my God, why did I do it that way?
Exactly.
In Native America, in many nations, there's the elders and there's the olders. And the olders are the ones that are still doing what they did in their 20s and their 30s.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. They're still trying to live that kind of lifestyle. And so they don't have a whole lot to add to somebody's life when they're living nearly the same kind of life. And so that's what they're called. They're called olders. And that because that's how the younger generation sees them. The elders, they term elders as the ones that still know or have not knowledge of ceremonies. That they're somebody who you can go to that's not going to shame them or blame them if they have a problem and they're trying to find a solution or a possible way of dealing with a situation. Where the olders will blame, will shame.
Right. Well, I think that when I really think of also the elders, I know that doesn't put you necessarily in a shaman position, but again, there's so many of those qualities that you have incorporated into your life, as I'm going to say an elder, and the learning, how to do healing techniques and learning how to counsel well. And as you said, just to be embracing and always being kind, all those different beautiful qualities. So you've just gathered, you're an individual that has gathered information that is there to embrace your tribe or your planet. That's really what it's all about. And I think that's where eldership comes from, is the more and more you do of that, you're more and more you're going to learn, because you're learning about various cultures, you're learning about not only your own religion, maybe so, but you're growing in all of that. And being that person that really wants to be one to be of assistance to others. I think that might be where the difference is between that elder and that older. That you have chosen, and of course the extent that you do that, the more and more I think you can actually come up to that space of what you might call a shaman or a healer or a title of that sort.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I really did agree with that Clarissa wrote about was that many elders will tell you that they don't know everything. It's like,
that's true.
I have this to offer, but that doesn't mean that that's the complete answer, because, we recognize that their journey is going to be somewhat different than ours. So it might not fill the whole picture up for them. It may give them the edges and they get to color it in, but it's the same situation when you're going to a healer or to, anything like that. If somebody tells you that they have the answer and they know exactly what it is, it's like, start asking questions, because they probably don't.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. See, the older I get, the more I realize how much I don't know.
Isn't that the truth?
And I think that really is a trait of somebody that is a little bit more, open. They really definitely, they're open. So I think an elder truly is someone that continues to expand their consciousness, to be open and to receive, like you said, okay, you can say, okay, oh, I can relate to this situation. I don't understand, I'm not in your situation, but I can relate to it because I've had something similar. So you can, help them in some way, so that maybe you can give them perspective. And that may be all that they need is to have a different perspective on something, so that they can make a different choice. Right. But it may not even be the way that they will choose to go. But, those kind of things.
Right. I was just, a story just went through my head. It was when my mom first moved in with us. I was trying to make sure that she had really good meals to really build up her immune system. And Paul and I, we've been doing organic food for a long time. And I was trying to explain this to my mom, because she goes, "Oh my gosh, that's expensive." She goes, why are you spending so much money on that?" And I was explaining to her the difference between the qualities of food. And she looked at me and she said, when I was growing up, food was just food. It was all organic. You didn't have to figure out which was and what wasn't, and it was true. It was so true. And I said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we make things so complicated, don't we?" Yeah. We made things so complicated. And she said it was just the way it was, and they didn't have preservatives in the food.
Right. That's true.
And it's those kinds of things, those little things that make you go, to have you think of something or see something just a little bit differently from a perspective. I think that's what elders do.
Yes. But I think that there are so many, as you mentioned this earlier, is that people that are here on the planet or coming into the planet, or these old souls that are already here. So sometimes you think, my gosh, this is an old soul. This is a little 3-year-old, and I can't believe what he's doing or what he's saying and things of that, like that. And you think, wow, and you think this little guy's smarter than I am. But again, they're walking their path, as we all are walking our path. And this is something that apparently has been was taught or overcame and became the master of whatever he was saying, where we haven't really possibly been in that space. So we still have that to learn in our life.
Right.
So to be able, to recognize that, I think is really, really important, is that there are these little masters, and these little seem like elders, because they are really, they should be way up here.
Really?
I don't really like to say here and here. I like to say here, and here, and here, because I think we are spiraling. And and everyone has got their path, and so they spiral up that path instead of saying, oh, this person, oh, is so wise, whatever, because they might be in some area, but they may not necessarily be in the other. It just depends on who they are. But to embrace them all, because they're all part of the divine, they're all needed. All those links are needed. So
absolutely. Don't you just love this conversation? I do. So I'm going to get caught up with.
So I hope that everybody else is too.
Well, let's get caught up with everybody in the chat, and then we'll end up the show that way. So, okay. Rob, if you could share some of the comments with us, that would be great. It's going to take me a second. Carol says, my family is small and not close. Growing up, I saw grandparents, aunts, and cousins once every few years. I have no grandchildren, so I love everybody else's. I feel I am an elder at large. I love that. I'm going to steal that one.
Yes, Carol, that's wonderful.
Elder at large. I'm going to write that down. Elder at large.
I like it.
I do too. Cindy says, I have reached out to my great niece to invite her to join Star Nations. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Cindy. Nice. I hope she does. Lisa says, I wish I would have had a strong female role model to shape my life. I grew up with 6 brothers. I grew up with 4 brothers. Yes, so I can relate just a little bit there. And Lisa, and I wasn't really close to my aunts. My mom and I have always been really close, but yeah, so having that extra, my grandmother, by the time my youngest brother and I came around, she was all done with the grandparent thing, and so we didn't spend a whole lot of time with her, but we spent a lot of time with my grandfather. And but I see what you mean. I do see that, Lisa. And that would be another good topic, I think, as we go into the elders, is how we help to nurture, to fill that gap in the nurturing. So thank you, Lisa, for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cindy says, I choose not to learn to iron. That's okay. You don't have to.
Good for you. Good choice.
Cindy says, my past loved ones with wisdom, even those that I never met. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good. This is Rob. He says, Aunt Edna from Vacation. No. No. But it could be kind of similar. Michael said, someone with life experience that I have not had, and it's interesting to me to hear and learn about. Yeah. See, that's what I mean about the gap, Michael, is that I really do believe we have at least 2 generations in our culture, Western culture, that have no experience with an elder and that kind of nurturing. So we're going to try to do the elder renaissance.
It's a great idea. Truly, it is. I think it's so important. I know I missed out on not having that.
Yeah.
Within myself, I craved it so much. That's why I chose to be a really good.
Really good Oma.
Yes, and that's true.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Lisa's comment. Lisa's comment. One with many experiences. Yes, a cousin who is such a wonderful man in a lot of stories. Yes. Yeah. So they can come to us. Elders can come to us in so many different ways. Carol says, an elder to me is someone who older and wise. I do recognize the women in my life who I consider to be elders. That's good.
It is.
Michael says, an FB post I love. When I get old, I don't want people thinking, what a sweet little old lady. I want them saying, what is she up to? What's she up to now?
I've read that one a few times.
Yeah, I want that too. Cindy says, my Uncle Pete stepped up after my dad died. He would always check in. That's sweet. Uncle Pete was a good guy. He was a good guy. Yeah. Carol says, great conversation. Okay, well, you have a nice evening, Carol. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It says, right, they preserve food, canned, and yeah. All that stuff is coming back now, isn't it? I'm just older.
Well, enjoy it.
Yeah, really. That's the key, isn't it? Is to
Right.
enjoy it. Yeah. So thanks for that. Let's see, we're at the very top of the hour. And so, Ortrun, one of the things I want to say before we say goodnight is, and I didn't, Rob, I apologize. We should probably told you we needed a picture, but that's okay, of Ortrun's cover of her book. I wanted to share with everybody that as elders, you are still very creative and very have abilities that maybe you don't even realize them in the moment. But because Ortrun said yes and stepped out there and said, yes, I will contribute to the Star Nations magazine, we were able to capture a lot, almost all of her articles to put into a book. And the way they have come together has been magical and very beautiful. And I know it's been I don't want to call it a labor of love. There it is. Thank you, Rob. It's been a journey together that has been very fulfilling for me and has taught me a lot about patience. And so this is Ortrun's book, and actually Ortrun, here's a hot off the press sort of thing. I have the PDF tonight from the L's with all of the edits in it.
Oh, really?
You see, we have one last time to take a look at it before we upload it to actually publish.
That's so exciting.
I know. We have the proof copy to go through first before we actually publicly release it, but we are going to announce it for pre-sale in the next couple of days. And so get ready, guys. This is the book of the year of 2020. This is the book that you're going to want. And so let's give the book cover a solo. Key of Life, Ancient Truths Integrated into the Modern World by Ortrun. Yay!
Drum roll.
Drum roll.
Yeah, I was speaking to Cindy Silva because she is someone that I started to do shows for under the WIN network, Wisdom and Intuition Network, and she also does my website. She's the one that designed our website, so I needed a little modification regarding the book. She was so excited about this book, and I said, really, bringing a book forth like this, it's really a little bit frightening. A little inside, I feel a little strange because I said, I am revealing so much of myself. Just really and truly, I'm revealing my path in that book. And so, and what I did to get where I'm at in my spiritual, where I'm at spiritually and perspective and so on. But to have someone look at all that, it's an interesting thing to do, is to really lay yourself out there. And this is what I did, or whatever, little stories with it, and the growth and so on that I attained from it, and the different practices that I performed to get to that space, link them to almost every situation in my life. She says, I think it's wonderful. She was so excited for me. And then she went on to say, she said, well, she still thought I was in my 80s, which I'm not.
No.
The elder thing, I still don't want to be in my 80s yet. So.
Can you bring us back?
But she said to be able to create a book and do that, well in your 70s. And she said,
no, this is true though. What I wanted to impress on our audience is, as an elder, no matter what age you are, chronological age, you still have wisdom to share. And thank you so much, Ortrun, really, for stepping out there and saying, yeah, I can do this. And then saying yes to the book as a second yes. And so that we have this to be able to share with everybody. And it is going to, it's just not going to end with this particular book. Ortrun and I have talked about this, about wants to turn it into a class, a workshop, and to be able to study with Ortrun from this book. And I want to turn it into an audiobook. And so this is, yes, it's going to be print on demand. Yes, you can have it as a print book and also as an ebook when it comes out. And so, as an eldership, this is really embracing I think, a way to embrace it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh-huh.
And we're going to do another show separate from this one, all about the book, probably in the next, oh, this is June, isn't it?
It is June.
This month. I can't tell you when. We're going to have to talk about that a bit and settle on a date. But yeah, so thank you and thank you, Ortrun, for making time for this evening to spend time with us. And
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Now, I wanted to read is there any? Okay. I just didn't know if there's something that was important out there in those messages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Michael has this one. She says, the 5 oldest in my family of 7 have a Native American heritage. One brother walked on in March 2019. My sisters did a fire ceremony with a drum and prayer bundles. We explained about smudging and fire and the bundles. One brother was a fire keeper. We have talked of making this a tradition with the family bundles. Everyone thanked us for it. See, oh, that is so loving, Michael. And thank you for sharing it. Yes, you are starting a tradition and bringing your family together.
Right.
Yeah.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Michael Joy, for sharing that.
Yeah.
I knew there was something there. I didn't have my glasses, but I thought just something we should be reading or sharing. So thank you.
Yeah. But I wanted to thank everybody for being with us this evening for the very first in a series of communications from home shows about eldership. And so the ones that are coming up, and not necessarily in this order, the reluctant elder, the rookie elder, the unrecognized elder, and I think we're going to add elder at large. And we're also going to talk about super elders. We're also going to talk about super elders. And so I hope this was helpful and thought-provoking, this conversation.
But I think that there are elders out there, even if you can't find them in your own family, that you can find them, the ones that really will embrace you and accept you, and that you can just feel as if you have that elder, if you want someone like that in your life.
Right.
So yeah,
put it out there to your spiritual team.
Exactly.
A loving, kind elder.
Yes. Well, I have to say it's really nice because people say, "I'll be your grandchild." Things. It's sort of fun, but we do have many that are not our family, that are like our call them our adopted grandchildren, because Carl and I attract these people, and like this one young man that helps us with the computer. He says, I use you because he has a little bit of an Asperger situation. And he says, didn't go to school, right? He was taught at home and so on. He says, I use you and Carl's as examples of how to be socially. It's just little things like that. Because people just need it to be there when someone feels that they want to learn something. Like this young man, he really wanted to be able to be social and know how to interact with people socially. And that was such a tremendous compliment.
Yeah.
To say something like that to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
is so good. It really is.
Yeah.
I think that's a prime example. It's a prime example of being an elder, is that you were available to be able to be that role model for them. And that is so good. So good. So thank you, everybody, for being with us this evening.
Thank you again. I'm hoping to be with all of you soon again.
Yes, absolutely. And you can always join me next week Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time for the next episode of Communications from Home. And next week, coming back to her normal time slot, will be Polly Jo LeBay and Soul Connections on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. She'll be right back here and doing the healing meditations and the card draws for everybody. So enjoy your evening, your Wednesday evening, and Bama Mina. That's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. Love you guys.
Auf Wiedersehen. See you again.